All right, we move on to the wide receivers for Waiver Wired, and we start with the Rams, of course, who are now down Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Demarcus Robinson against the Niners, available in 58% of leagues. 4 targets, 2 catches for 50 yards against Arizona, but we know, Matthew, when this team deals with injuries, Robinson's role increases.
Yeah, again, this is a situation that is very much, hey, do I need somebody for this week or do I need someone for the future? If you need someone for this week, I think Demarcus Robinson is the most obvious Los Angeles Rams pass catcher to get, right? He's actually played 92% of the snaps for the year. He leads all Rams wide receivers. Now, of course, Puka missed game 1. Kupp misses half of game 2, if not more. So, but again, 92% of the snaps. He's had at least 40 receiving yards in both games. He actually is tied for the team lead with 2 end zone targets. He was successful down the stretch. There's a familiarity with Demarcus Robinson and Matthew Stafford in this offense. So if I needed someone this week, give me Demarcus Robinson against the 49ers. However, you see some of the other names there on your list, Tutu Atwell, Tyler Johnston, Jordan Whittington. And Jordan Whittington, to me, especially Connor, is really interesting if I need somebody just for rest of the season. I didn't have Kupp on my team or Nacua, and I'm just sort of looking to fortify because he ran 13 routes last week, 9 of which came in the slot. This is a kid who's who's a 5th-round rookie, right? Had a huge preseason. A lot of people were talking like, is this year's Puka Nacua? I don't know that you can ever say who's this year's Puka Nacua because Puka Nacua set the NFL record for receptions and receiving yards by a rookie. And so I think that's a lot to put on anyone. Hey, can you set the NFL record again? But again, just knowing how this offense uses the slot specifically,
right,
with both Kupp and Nacua, that I do just think Jordan Whittington, who again impressed in the preseason, if he gets that role full time, and I think there's a decent chance he does, he becomes really interesting for as long as Kupp and Nacua are out. And I'll also say this, if ever there was a team that can take a guy you've never heard of and some guy that doesn't have a ton of draft day capital and make him into a fantasy superstar, it's Sean McVay and the Rams. Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua. There's a long history of Sean McVay saying, like, I'm taking this obscure guy and I'm making him into something.
And why Whittington will be on the field more than Tutu Atwell is he's a great blocker. Yeah. And you know how Puka Nacua got on the field? Before he was rumbling for 1,500 yards, he was a great blocker. Cooper Kupp, he got on the field. He was a great blocker. This matters so much to McVay and how you produce in fantasy. Number one, you need to be on the field. So that's the benefit. Obviously, Demarcus Robinson's in a different place. But if you're weighing between Tutu Atwell and Whittington, that's why I heavily lean Whittington.
Yep. Yeah, Atwell is a big play guy. 14.4 fantasy points per game in weeks 1 through 4 last season with Cooper Kupp out. But again, they've got more options this year. And again, I prefer long-term, I prefer Whittington to Atwell, who will be more boom or bust.
Browns wide receiver Jeudy against the Giants, available in 59% of leagues, had 6 targets against Jacksonville, caught 5 of them for 73 yards as Amari Cooper, his teammate, is nowhere to be found.
It's a weird one. I don't know if Amari is hurt or just, there's just not a great target. Yeah, I don't know if there's just, it does feel like there is some sort of better connection at early stages so far between Deshaun Watson and Jerry Jeudy. There's been only 3 end zone targets for the Browns so far, but Jerry Judy's got 2 of them. Jerry Jeudy, who never caught touchdowns in Denver, who was allergic to the end zone, all of a sudden he's now scored in back-to-back weeks, or has gotten 2 of the 3 end zone targets so far. He's led the Cleveland wide receivers in receiving yards both games so far, and as we mentioned, they are playing the New York Giants this week. If you need somebody for this week, Jerry Jeudy, Lord help me, Jerry Judy's probably going to be on the love list this week. And then they're at Las Vegas, at Washington, at Philadelphia. Like, the schedule's actually fairly nice coming up here for Jerry Jeudy and the Cleveland Browns.
Yep. Feels a little bit dirty with how bad that passing offense has looked. But it looked bad against Dallas, who in theory, despite what they showed against New Orleans the following week, Dallas in theory have a good defense. And then the Jags, for all the disaster that's happening there, that disaster's been on offense. I think they have a good defense, the Jags, so now they get favorable matchup the Browns do against the Giants. Again, it's Jerry Jeudy. Deshaun Watson's number 2 option.
But he's the number 2 option on a functional offense, and he might actually be the number 1 by the end of the season. Again, it's been a slow start this season for Amari Cooper so far. This next one, he should talk about.
How about your man, Jay, Quentin Johnston? People left him for dead.
My man, put him in my stable. I'll add him to Michael Thomas and Najee Harris. He fits quite nicely in that group of players, actually. But look, Quentin Johnston, talked about this yesterday, we're like 16 months removed from him being, the 21st pick in the draft.
Yep.
And I think in terms of just like raw potential and upside, he's the number one guy for the Chargers. So everyone wrote him off. I mean, he was excellent last week. He gets in the end zone multiple times. He's playing 70% of the snaps. And here's the thing with the Chargers. Everyone thinks this is like J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Greg Roman, run first offense. They've played the Panthers and the Raiders. At some point, they're going to have to throw the ball. And when they do, Quentin Johnston could see even more volume.
Very obviously the big game with the 2 touchdowns on Sunday, but he's now had a 20% target share or more in both games this year. Josh Palmer a little bit banged up. McConkey's a rookie. QJ with a new coaching staff, a new leash on life, there was some inconsistency coming out of college, but if he solved that, if the Harbaugh and his staff have gotten that out of him, the talent is obvious.
Yeah, Harbaugh's excellent at that, just getting a guy's confidence back.
Yeah.
I think you're seeing it, the early returns with Quentin Johnston. All right, Gabe Davis, of course, of this Jaguars team that's struggling, 66% available. They got the Bills. I don't want to call this a Monday night shootout potential here, Matthew, but this should be a relatively offensive
Revenge game.
Revenge game for
Right.
Gabe Davis, exactly.
That's what it'll be built up.
Look, the argument for Gabe Davis is he's playing almost every snap. Right? I mean, through two games, he's got a 21.7% target share. I prefer Brian Thomas Jr. On this team in terms of just talent, but Gabe Davis is playing every snap. He's out there on a team that's clearly going to have to throw. It's just not a good team. He had 7 targets in week 2. Went 3 for 43. Again, he's boomer bust. We sort of know the deal with Gabe Davis, but he's capable of going off at any. It seems like Christian Kirk is just. I don't know what's going on with Christian Kirk. I don't know what's going on with this offense. It's brutal, but the argument for Gabe Davis is he is at worst the number 2 wide receiver and playing a ton of snaps on a team that is pass first. I don't have a lot.
We're down the list.
I mean, we're down the list, but he is 66% available. I'm not trying to, I don't want someone bad bag of goods here, Jay. It is what it is.
Here's the thing with the Jags offense. It just has to get better at some point.
Can't
Trevor
get
Lawrence
worse.
is a good quarterback.
Yeah.
Doug Peterson, in theory, is a good offensive mind.
I
Press
feel like
Taylor
we've
might
been
be a
saying
disaster.
this for way too long now, though.
I know.
It's going to get – is Trevor Lawrence going to be 31 and we're going to be like, well, this is the year.
He looks
Fantasy-wise, not real NFL-wise.
Physically, he looks better to me this year. Just the offense, the scheme, they're not defined by anything. Press Taylor seems like a disaster. I just think it will get better. Here's the thing: it's their next 2 games are very difficult. They could be 0-4, and then we're going to see new people in Jacksonville at that point.
Mike Florio brought this up on our Football Night in America podcast, which is they've lost 7 of their last 8 now, dating back to last year. And the Jaguars, they want to win, right? They have high expectations. They spent a lot of money on Trevor Lawrence. They spent a lot of money on some free agents as well. You never want to root for somebody or predict somebody being fired, but it does feel like if they start out 0-4, there may be some changes coming.
At the top of the show, we talked about Deebo Samuel with the calf injury, expected to miss a few weeks. Of course, Juwan Jennings makes this list against the Rams, 98% available, 4 targets last week, Matthew, and obviously an elevated role with Deebo out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone can replace Deebo because he's such a unique player that has such a different skill set. But to your point about how do you earn fantasy points, you get on the field, and if you're on the field, you can get the ball. They like Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings, had the Niners won the Super Bowl, I'd have argued Juwan Jennings probably should have been the MVP.
He's the favorite in the market to win the Super Bowl.
He should have
300 to 1.
Yeah, but he had a great Super Bowl. When Juwan Jennings has gotten opportunity, he has produced in his 5 career games with at least 6 targets. Again, not a big sample size, but he's had 5 games where he's gotten at least 6 targets. He's averaging 15.3 fantasy points per game, and so 69% of his targets over the last 2 seasons have come from the slot, so he can play there. Juwan Jennings is going to get more run now with Deebo Samuel out for the Niners.
Some deeper league wide receiver targets. Alec Pierce, 72% available still, despite a really nice start to the season for Alec Pierce.
Yeah, the argument is Josh Downs came close to playing in this one, and so if he's back, we know Josh Downs will be in the slot. We know Pittman will be on the side. So I think it's really going to be Pierce and A.D. Mitchell out there on the side. You see Jalen Naylor on your side. I really like Jalen Naylor. Jefferson's a little bit banged up. Jordan Addison's a little bit banged up. Jalen Naylor has scored in both games this season. He played 93% of the snaps in week 2 with an almost 17% target share, for a rookie is really nice on an offense that is obviously going to be a lot better than people thought. And Jalen Tolbert, again, there's just not a lot of offense in Dallas. And so somebody besides CeeDee Lamb, my guy Aites, has to step up. Jake Ferguson was out last week, but Tolbert made an unbelievable catch. Brandon Cooks, wrong side of 30 here. Tolbert's the number 3, but I think there's a chance he supplants Cooks as the number 2. And so he's more of a in the future kind of guy that you would stash and sort of see as the season plays out. But we do think somebody else has to step up in Dallas.
To recap, Matthew's Week 3 top wide receiver waiver targets. Demarcus Robinson is number 1 at the top, followed by his teammate Jordan Whittington. Jerry Jeudy, Quentin Johnston, Gabe Davis at 3, 4, and 5. Jawan Jennings with Deebo Samuel down. Alec Pierce, but keep in mind that Josh Downs coming back will affect his target share. Jalen Naylor of the Vikings and Jalen Tolbert of the Cowboys, a potential stash option.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.